For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Good afternoon. My name is John, and I'd like to talk to you about this verse, John 3:16. It's many favorite Christians' verse, mine too. And so I'd like to talk to you a little bit about it and maybe have some messages on it. This was said by Jesus to Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews and a Pharisee. And he had come to Jesus by night and was discussing theology with him, also Jesus' mission and ministry, and actually they talked about religion and theology. And this verse right here really sums up the whole Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. The whole Bible, 1,600 years in writing by 40 different authors, some kings, some fishermen, some farmers, a very variety of prophets. Some of them were, some of the prophets were farmers, rulers. So you had a variety of people over a 1,600 year period, and that wrote the Bible. And if there's one verse that sums up the meaning or the summary of the Bible, it is this verse, John 3:16. Again, it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." God, now, creator of all things and everything. You can go back to Genesis chapter 1, and in Genesis chapter 1, there is an overview of God's creation of everything, including man. And this is the being, the supreme being, the creator, God, that Jesus is talking about here. Now, of course, he goes a little bit further into this verse, and it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son." Well, Jesus is his Son. So he's talking about himself here in a third person, and giving you really the theology or the reason behind Jesus coming. And he says God gave his only begotten Son. And begotten means the same essence as, the same material as. And so, like, I begot a son, and my son is of the same nature as I am. He has my DNA and his mother's DNA, and so he is equal to me in creation. He is equal to me in existence. I'm a man, he's a man. He has the same attributes that I have. He has the same, he's got shortcomings like all men do, and he has some assets like all men do. So we find here that Jesus is saying God has given his only Son, begotten Son, and begotten again means of the same character, same status, same position as God. And Jesus is God in the flesh. He is the incarnate Word. He is God that has come and has taken on the flesh like you and I have. And he's the only one that God has given or had or has. And he has given his only begotten Son, or his only Son, to us. And it tells us why he's given us his only Son, that we might receive everlasting life. So what's that mean? That means that God, through the beginning of time, has told us this was going to happen. God sent forth His Son, made of a woman, same flesh that you and I have, and God sent His Son as a sacrifice. It says gave, as a gift to mankind, to save mankind from the curse of their sin, or the punishment of their sin, which is, death and damnation and separation from God and hell. So Jesus, God sent His only Son, His only flesh, to take our place as a sacrifice for our sin, not for His sin, because He never committed any sin. Jesus never didn't have the nature. See, He's got the nature of God. He's got the nature of God, and God, it's impossible for Him to sin. And so, God made up the rules. He said, hey, this is what sin is, and this is what sin ain't. And it's going to be, I'm going to set it up so whatever I do is not sin. And He's a righteous God. He's a holy God. And so it's impossible for Him to sin because He set up what was sin and what isn't sin. How'd you like to be able to do that? Well, God did it. And so there's a lot of people, a lot of men that try to rule or live their life like they are God, and that what they say is right and everything else is wrong. But that's not so. God is the one, the creator. God is love. Love is the one that sent His Son, that set up the rules by which we are to be saved and find forgiveness for our sin. He's the one, and Jesus Christ was the personification of this, the only Son of God. And He did this so that we can have everlasting life. Now, when do you receive that life? You receive that life when you believe. It says there in John 3:16 that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish. So it's believing. So believing and the sacrifice, what God says that He has done, He sent His Son as a sacrifice for us. If you believe that, you will be forgiven for your sin, and you will be given as a gift everlasting life. And that everlasting life begins when you believe. However old you are, or young, old you are, whenever you receive that everlasting life, you receive that eternal life, and you experience that eternal life in this flesh, this sinful flesh, so you really can't experience the fullness of it, but you sure can experience a lot better quality life once you believe. And, I can't explain that to you until you believe. It's like me trying to, if I was a person there, if I was trying to explain a rose and you were blind, for me to try and explain a rose to you and you're blind, it would be very hard to do. It's impossible to do. So it takes faith, it takes belief, and we're going to be going over this and over this again. We're going to break down this verse, and I don't know how many times we're going to break it down, how many times I'm going to talk about it, but this is what God has done for us, the Creator, in providing His sacrifice. He set up the rules, He set up the laws, and He's provided the fulfillment of those laws and the sacrifice, substitutionary sacrifice for us in Jesus Christ. And if you believe that, if you put your faith in that, and what I mean by believing, you say, yeah, I believe. And we'll go more into that as I go over these messages. So God bless you. My name's John. You can contact me at WSM217 at gmail.com. And if you got any questions, feel free to contact me. God bless you.